troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. When you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on.
Senator Patty Murray's questioning of Pam Bondi was more than just a tense back and forth. It was a moment that revealed the stark divide between a commitment to justice and accountability and an administration that too often operates with disregard for the law and the people it is supposed to serve.
We're joined by the Vice Chairman of the full committee. Senator Murray is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, we are in a deeply alarming moment where law and order is being replaced by chaos and corruption and really whatever Trump wants. And your department's independence and its capacity to do its job have eroded before our eyes. We have seen respected career officials who've been fired for doing their job. Thousands more are being pushed out with your buyouts and the threat of mass firings, and entire divisions are being eliminated, and grants have been canceled illegally. So I have questions about how and why those decisions are being made, and importantly, whether you're adequately resourcing DOJ to do its job. But before I turn to my questions, I do want to raise my alarm about the troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is not the country I know or the values I believe in, and I hope that colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree with that. Now, to the questions. Yesterday, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this issue, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing Deputy AG Emil Bove and senior DOJ leadership of defying court orders, including through, quote, lack of candor, deliberate delay, and disinformation, unquote. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. These allegations are deeply concerning. Now, I know you said that you can't discuss the case, but can you confirm that you agree that this administration should follow court orders?
We will follow court orders, Senator. The entire administration will follow court orders. The problem arises in the district courts. All these district courts throughout the country are tying our hands. But here's how we will follow them when we get to the United Supreme Court.
I need to ask
we're winning.
A number of questions.
And so, yes, we're following the orders of the court.
Let me ask my questions. Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like what is alleged to continue at the DOJ?
I'm not going to talk about anything that's alleged. What I will talk about with you, hold on, you asked me a question and I get to answer it. What you asked me, alleged conduct that's part of a pending whistleblower lawsuit that was filed on the eve prior to Emil Bove's hearing today.
I'm not asking about that
suspicious.
Case
hold on, let me keep going. I would run through a wall for Emil Bove and Todd Blanche.
Like to continue with my questions. I have very limited time. Thank you. I just want you to confirm for this you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know and two of the
asking about the
people
conduct.
I know.
Let me keep going here. Now, in April, DOJ abruptly terminated over 300 public safety grants that had already gone through a very rigorous and fair and apolitical application process with no explanation. This is funding to investigate and prosecute drug trafficking, to support foster care kids who experienced abuse or neglect, to expand access to forensic exams to prosecute violent crimes like sexual assault. These really senseless cancellations have already forced public safety organizations to cut employees and services. So I want to ask you, when you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on. We have an appeal process, but if you want to come to me directly, I would be happy to sit down with you and look
I'm
at that
happy to
and
do
help
that.
you.
I'm
Because,
happy. I appreciate
again, we're
that,
doing
but-
everything we can.
Okay, but let me just ask you, when you cut off the expanding access to sexual assault forensic examination grant, were you aware that that grant helps our authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault?
I have no idea about that specific grant you're talking about. That's why I said, if you want to come sit down with me, I would never cut a grant
I appreciate that.
intentionally
It's
that
very
has
hard for
anything to
those
do.
recipients on the other end across the country.
Can you
to
give me
get a
the
phone
details
interview.
of that grant?
I can absolutely do that, and my staff will get that to you, but those are two critical ones that I just wanted to ask you about today.
Again, we've turned many grants back on and will continue to. If you want to call me and we can discuss them with you.
Okay, in your budget request, you propose consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. In 2002, Congress actually codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office to implement the Violence Against Women Act. We did that to make sure that violent crimes against women receive the necessary attention, expertise, and resources, and to give the office a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department and federal government. Now, your department wants to fade that into the OJP, which violates the intent of the law that we passed. It makes grant programs less effective, and it places a lot more barriers for victims and services they need. And I see that you're cutting the office's resources by about a third. So will you commit to us, the Appropriations Committee, to follow the law and maintain OVW as a separate grant entity?
I will follow the law, but I will not keep that as a separate grant entity. You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is.
Well,
That's being consolidated into the Office of Justice Programs.
so
I'm not going to cut, let me answer, I'm not going to cut anything that's going to hurt violence against
Not
women.
my question.
It will
I'm
eliminate
asking, just for your information, Attorney General, in 2002, we codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office. So that you need to go back and take a look at that. I know my time is out, but I thank you very much for the time.
Murray opened by naming what so many Americans feel, that law and order has been twisted into something unrecognizable, where justice is replaced by political loyalty and independence at the Department of Justice has been eroded. Her words weren't hyperbole. We've watched respected career officials fired simply for doing their jobs. We've seen grants cut, divisions dismantled, and threats of mass firings that send a chilling message through the ranks of public servants. These aren't just bureaucratic moves, they're deliberate choices that weaken the very institutions that protect ordinary Americans. Then Senator Murray raised something even more alarming, a whistleblower's complaint accusing DOJ leadership of defying court orders through disinformation, deliberate delay, and a lack of candor. In plain terms, this means the department tasked with upholding the law is instead being accused of working against it. And rather than protecting the whistleblower, this administration fired them. That matters because whistleblowers are often the only lifeline for transparency when powerful officials abuse their authority. When Bondi was asked directly if she would allow such conduct to continue, she dodged the question, falling back on defending individuals in her inner circle rather than committing to protecting the integrity of the department. That is not the behavior of someone committed to accountability. It's the behavior of someone committed to loyalty above all else. Murray then pressed Bondi on funding decisions that have life or death consequences for communities. In April, the DOJ abruptly cut off over 300 public safety grants. These weren't frivolous programs. They included funding to investigate drug trafficking, to support children in foster care, to expand access to forensic exams for sexual assault survivors, and to prosecute violent crimes. Cutting these grants means fewer resources for law enforcement, fewer services for victims, and less justice for communities. When Bondi was asked if she knew the impact of these cuts, she admitted she had no idea about specific grants, including one that helps authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault. That moment should stop every viewer in their tracks. An attorney general claiming she has no idea about funding decisions that affect the prosecution of violent crimes is not just ignorance, it's negligence. The exchange then moved to the Violence Against Women Act, a law passed with bipartisan support to ensure crimes against women receive focused attention and resources. Murray reminded Bondi that in 2002, Congress codified the Office on Violence Against Women as a permanent, independent office. This wasn't symbolic. It was designed to ensure victims of domestic violence and sexual assault had a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department. Bondi's plan to fold that office into a larger bureaucracy not only violates the intent of the law, but it risks diluting the resources and focus that survivors depend on. And when pressed, Bondi refused to back down, insisting she would consolidate the office despite the law. That tells us something critical. This isn't about efficiency. It's about power, control, and a refusal to respect congressional intent. What viewers should take away from this hearing is clear. On one side, you have Senator Patty Murray fighting for accountability, transparency, and the protection of vulnerable communities, children, survivors of sexual assault, families relying on public safety programs. On the other side, you have Pam Bondi dodging questions, defending political allies, and brushing aside the real-world consequences of her decisions. This isn't an abstract fight. When whistleblowers are silenced, corruption thrives. When grants for forensic exams are cut, survivors of sexual assault wait longer for justice. When the Violence Against Women Act is weakened, victims of domestic violence lose vital lifelines. These decisions affect lives, and they show the sharp contrast between Democratic leadership, which prioritizes people, and Republican leadership, which too often prioritizes power. The lesson is simple but profound. Democracy and justice don't survive on autopilot. They require vigilant leaders willing to press for answers, protect institutions, and defend the vulnerable. Senator Murray did exactly that, and it's up to all of us to recognize the difference between those who fight for justice and those who undermine it.